Hey, Different World BG here, and welcome to Business Boost. Every Thursday here during the week, we talk to you, get you ready for the weekend, talk to you about finance, your career, business, how to boost it.
Welcome to another episode of Business Boost here on Thursday. Today's topic is how to pivot your business or your brand to take advantage of today's new economy. So we're going to be discussing about 6 different points that can help you leverage where you are right now and where you want to be. So that being said, what is the information that does contribute to success in this new economy? I believe that that information is contained in 3 to 6 principles. I spend a lot of time working with businesses who have successfully built revenue generating opportunities from scratch. All of them have a successful track record. And the very things that I'm going to cover in this Business Boost podcast is the very thing that some of these brands are doing. So what I'm interested in helping you do is applying these principles to an even higher degree in magnitude. But this first starts by looking at what thinking differently means. Now, I'm all about thinking differently, and reasonably so. I mentioned this earlier. If you think like everyone else, you're going to get the same results as everyone else. But if you think differently, but based on how successful people think differently, then the statistical probability is going to go higher that you're able to create success. So I'm going to link a video in the description of a Business Boost podcast we did a few years ago. I recommend that you go watch it. But we're going to talk about some of the elements that sort of goes into the concept of thinking differently in this new economy. Everything's changing by the day. But there are only 3 ways to essentially grow your business. They are increase the number of clients, number 1. Number 2, increase the average size of the sale per client. Number 3, increase the number of times the clients return and buy again. As obvious as these may seem, there are many creative, unique, different ways of approaching this non-linearly to achieve these results. Now, think about this for a moment. Let's say you have 1,000 clients. They average $100 per transaction, and they make 2 purchases within a year. Well, 1,000 clients times 100 times 2 is $200,000. So that's a $200,000 a year business. Now, what if we were to increase each of these areas, number of clients, average size of sale per client, and the number of clients, or the number of times clients return and buy again by just 10%, what would happen to your results? Well, 1,100 times 110 times 2.2 is 266,200. So a mere 10% increase across the board expands your income by 33.1%. Now, if it was that easy, everyone would do it, of course. But why do most people not do it? That's because 9 times out of 10, they don't have access of different ways of doing things that are highest and best use. High leverage that when added to each of these 3 areas can actually prove minimally to produce those numbers of 10%. And they can consistently do this every year by adding more, and multiplying with focus and discipline. And interestingly enough, most businesses are not focused on creating value for the clients. On the flip side, they're interested in figuring out how they can get the most money out of their clients. But the truth is that if you can create more value for your clients, you can increase the number of clients you have. It will more than likely increase the average size of spend with your business because they'll pay a premium for better business, better quality, better service. And there are ways of doing that to keep your profit margins high. But just by creating a valuable experience, your clients are more likely to come back and buy more things. So this starts, we'll get into the 3 ways to pivot your business in this economy. 1, we want to start by thinking differently. So let's start with that. We want to start thinking more in alignment with what successful business owners are doing. Industry A doesn't know anything about the methods Industry B use it. Correspondingly, Industry C is unaware of how Industry B sells or markets, and on and on. By helping you study and identify the principles that drive the successes in hundreds of other industries, you're able to pick and choose the most powerful, effective, state-of-the-art approaches to use in your particular industry. So number 1, you want to be investing time studying what other people are doing outside of your industry. Now, you may see this a lot. Tech circle, tech entrepreneurs, they surround themselves with other tech entrepreneurs. Restaurateurs surround themselves with other restaurateurs. But what I'm suggesting is step outside of your industry and figure out what they're doing to solve problems, because chances are they may have the same problems that you're having and may have created a unique way to solve that problem. Could be more cost effective, faster, so forth. But if you can apply that to your business and your industry, then all of a sudden you will have a greater output. If you're fishing and you have 1 pole with 1 line in the water, you'll be able to catch only a number limited of fish. But if you use 10 poles, 10 lines, 10 different baits in the water at the same time, your fish catching potential will significantly increase. That's just one way of thinking about it. Another way of thinking of it is, are you thinking of this too linearly? Do you have just one product or service that you use that you're trying to force in the marketplace? Or are you looking at what the client, what your users are interested in buying before, during, or after? And then figuring out how you can create or partner with others to provide solutions in exchange for money. So by diversifying, not randomly, but value based on what it means to a client, you're essentially creating new ways of penetrating the market, which will create additional revenue streams, or might just currently permanently replace your initial revenue stream. So this is one of the reasons why, I've focused on the entrepreneur and just thinking differently in their approach to strategic breakthroughs and problem solving, and the entrepreneurs I've come across that have grown to success realize the importance of pivoting based on what is valuable to the customer. Pivoting, a lot of times when you have this product or service, you're thinking, oh, this is the best thing. And what you want to do is go out and sell it to everybody. But a lot of times we start out and you realize it's not exactly resonating with the marketplace. You're trying to force it in, and if it doesn't work, people just give up. But what you fail to recognize is value is what the client, what your user sees as valuable. Now, there are ways of persuading and so forth, but why not make it easier and figure out what they're already interested in? And then you can adjust or modify or move into something else to serve that client, that user, that customer, and then reinvest that income back into other business building activities. So entrepreneurs who do that, the statistical probability of success goes up way higher. Now, that being said, let's talk about breakthroughs, right? Because we're in an ever-changing economy right now, and breakthrough thinking is what we want to facilitate. So what does it mean, and how do we go about doing it? So essentially what we're looking for is quantum leaps, and I'm a fan in making incremental gains. I also really like the compound effect. I also like a strategy called the U squared strategy, and I may touch a bit on that, but what we're looking at is some opportunities that exist within our awareness that, when executed, produce breakthrough results. Not just a few percent increase, but a 20 or 30, 40% increase based on, for example, we talked about different ways of growing business, doing 3 changes to the 3 parts of your business, of growing your business. 10% each produce 33%. So I'm interested in leverage like that. So breakthroughs is really the focus point right now. Your greatest success and prosperity in business and life will come through your ability to create your own breakthroughs. So what does this mean? It means at this stage in your business, you have to become breakthrough generating machines. I meet a lot of people and they present a lot of ideas to me, and they sound nice theoretically, but once applied, they produce marginal results, if any. And these ideas are generated based on them looking around and seeing what everyone else is doing, and then sort of copying the ideas. That's fine, maybe just to get started, but what I believe is, why not set yourself up so that you come up with unique problem-solving ideas and opportunities that can be executed on, that are different, that create something new in the marketplace, or solve a problem faster and actually executed upon to produce results. Those are the kind of ideas that we want, breakthrough ideas, and those are generated by, yes, being aware of what others are doing, but then looking at how others are also doing things differently to produce results, and figuring out how we can borrow that philosophy, those principles or that process, and apply it to what we're doing right now. So the best way to do this is essentially to spend time with others in different industries and figure out how they do things. Study topics that you aren't necessarily interested in, and look for connects. Now, those of you who are part of our Business Boost program recognize that one of the things I do in creating some of these strategies is incorporate the 4 quadrants of learning, because it's important. So number 1 are the why learners. They essentially want to learn why things work the way they do. They're the salespeople. They want to go out and tell people how it works. So they're deeply interested in why things work. Number 2 is the what learners, the theoretical breakdown, the facts, the scientific data. The theory is what they're looking at, and that's what they believe helps them at a high level of comprehension. Number 3 is the how learners. They want to learn by doing. They take information and actually go out and do it. They love hands-on experience, and they learn from doing. And number 4 is the what if learners. They look at how things work in the certain learning context. They take what they're learning and they figure out how to apply it in another area. So what we're saying is that all 4 are important, but one of them is going to help us with breakthrough thinking. Now, arguably they're all going to help, but one of the areas we want to focus on is the what if learners. What if learners, small percentage of the population, they are the entrepreneurs. They are the ones that figure out what somebody's doing in one area and then borrow that principle and apply it to another area to create profits. They're constantly looking at how something works right now and how else it can be applied and done. So if you want to be more successful in your realm of entrepreneurship, you want to think differently. Constantly look at the different things that are going on within your awareness, business awareness, personal life, etc., and see how that's applicable in another area. For example, you can take what we're talking about right now in the context of business building, and you can challenge yourself to see how this is applicable to the current climate, the current quarantine economy. This is why breakthrough pivoting is essential. You can figure out how concepts that we're covering is applicable in the areas of the current economy. So again, let's go over this. What is a breakthrough? Unconventional, fresh, superior, more excited ways of doing things. Dramatic improvements that make you more impactful, powerful, efficient, productive, inspiring to your client or your user. Make your marketing produce 2 or 3 times the result with the same or less effort. So what we want to do here is apply the what if principle, right? Everything that I'm talking about in this video, you want to ask yourself, how do we take what's covered here and apply it to our business right now? How much are we applying these concepts? How can we apply these concepts? And by doing that, it's going to facilitate more of those breakthroughs, what I like to call an insider perspective. You facilitate the breakthroughs by looking at how all these items apply to your business. Transform your product from a commodity to a prized proprietary item no one else can offer or compete against. It can let you control your business with fewer people, fewer payroll, more efficiency, more profitability. By the way, if you can't figure out how to do these things, then it's worth noting, if you're taking notes right now, looking for different resources, looking for consultants like myself that can help you understand these areas. People are probably doing what you're doing right now in business with less confusion, less payroll, more efficiency. How can you find them? How can you connect with them? How can you learn from them? Do they have anything that you can interact with, that you can study from to learn what they're doing and apply it to what you're doing right now? So breakthroughs let you change the entire business game by allowing you to totally change all the rules and remake them at will. You can out-leverage, out-market, outsell, out-defend, outwit your competition on every level. Right now your competitors are constantly trying to come up with new ways to take your clients, your job, or your entire business away from you. And you got to beat them to the punch. And breakthroughs are the pathway to doing it. So you're at a considerable advantage by studying nonlinear ways of thinking differently, because the majority of the population tries to think like everyone else because they don't have the confidence to go beyond their current reality. Breakthroughs let you reinvent your business and career before some competitor does it for you, maximize your success better, so you can create and uncover future successes. They also let you ethically use the power of other people's knowledge, capital, and resources to your capital advantage. You can eliminate your risk of opportunity while still achieving maximum payoff. So that being said, now we got some general info about breakthroughs. How do we facilitate breakthrough thinking? Because that's what's needed right now in order to pivot. How can we access the same marketplace with less resources, less time, less money, but also how we can calibrate ourselves to think differently? Because that's so important. It's the foundation of this podcast. This podcast is designed to get you to think differently, but not in a way that's randomly thinking, abstract and non-purposeful. Think differently that's more in alignment with those that are successful in business building. Now, if you were to give this podcast to any successful entrepreneur and you ask them to listen to it and ask them to provide you thoughts on this, most likely they're going to validate the information, and they're probably going to say to you, we're doing these things, or we're doing some of these things, or we could do more of these things. That's because this information is contained within this podcast will help you exponentially grow or pivot your business during these challenging times in our economy. We want to remove ourselves from the noise, right? You want to remove your brand from the noise in the market. How do you do that? Be opportunity focused. Look at things from an opportunity perspective. You have to see opportunities where everyone else sees problems, obstacles, limitations, or boundaries. And you have to constantly place yourself in situations that appear to be problems, obstacles, limitations, or boundaries, and stay in that pocket until you solve it, right? You also have to consider opportunity costs. Now, not every single opportunity or problem or obstacle or limitation requires you to stay there. So always, validate your opportunity cost. It's not worth staying in some of them, but some you can learn from. You got to look at what opportunities have a payout, and what's the payout? Are you willing to invest your time, energy, and resources to figure out the solution? What is the payout in the short term versus the long term? You have to be able to evaluate these things. But the key is seeing opportunities where others sees problems, obstacles, limitations, and boundaries. And most people run away from these kind of things rather than dedicating some time each day to stay in that pocket and evoke creative thinking and non-linear ways of thinking to solve the problem. You have to invent and constantly be reinventing your own better future. So maximizing and creating breakthroughs means more than just giving the most profit performance and effectiveness out of an action. It also means achieving maximum results using a minimum of time, effort, expense, and risk, some people that few people practice or even think about. But this is what I call the highest and best use theory. It's one of my favorite theories. And the reason why is because the truth is this. You only have a certain amount of time, you have a certain amount of energy, you have a certain amount of resources. And what you do with that time, energy, and resources, opportunity costs as well, there's many things you can do. Why not sift and sort and figure out what are the items that you can do? Because you can only really do one thing at a time with full presence. The one thing that's going to accelerate and move your brand strategy forward the fastest, create more value for the marketplace in which you get paid for the most and brings you the most fulfillment and joy. There's a lot of combination of elements. What are those things? When I started to think like that, my results started to increase, and I started to look at all the things I was doing, and I realized I had to cut out a whole bunch of things that I thought were productive, but maybe they are productive, they still produce results, but as opposed to what? As opposed to maybe this other thing that could accelerate my results even further, that will get me into flow state even more. You need to be thinking about that. So let's look at an example here, a couple examples rather, that you can really internalize and solidify this concept of thinking differently. You have to pivot, and one of the ways of pivoting is partnering, whether that be strategic alliance, whether that be joint venture, but basically as expensive as it is to buy new market shares, to penetrate new industries, parts of the world, different niche markets, the logical, strategic, proven alternative that large companies, small businesses have already recognized are organizing powerful and profitable strategic alliances. That's how you can pivot in this changing economy. Now, it's going to take some time to see how this economy is playing out. New closures every day, pretty much. But today you have even more brutal competition. If you think about it, you have a disloyal market going out in the open market and spend all the money, time, effort to get credibility, to win people over from other suppliers or from other alternatives to your product. So you have to think that with all of these businesses closing, you have the commoditization of products and services. So you have to work against trying to be distinctive. You have multiple options and alternatives to fill a given need that have been cut and trimmed down to just a few options. And this is happening daily. But you have to preempt your client. You have fear, apprehension, uncertainty that people have about doing business with anybody, switching suppliers, going with the new business in town. I have a client right now who has a brilliant strategy for sort of web enabling the production of hard to find promotional units, promotional items. But people are apprehensive about switching. They're terrified about switching. The few trusted advisors that the market can really depend on or believe in, what is a strategic alliance? It's nothing more than old-fashioned partnering with a strategic twist. Now that you know strategy, I've talked about brand strategy often in past episodes, past podcasts. So it's a means to dramatically expand and enhance, generate new markets, business, clients, customers. Those of you think that way, but image, posture, probability, all with minimal expenditure of time, effort, expense, manpower, and the R word, risk. Entrepreneurs are scared of risk. The opportunities and strategic alliances are as limitless as your non-linear capacity to see these connections. This is how you pivot. You have to see the connections. You have to see all the ways that opportunity can flow in and out of your business, like a two-way valve. It's only limited to your ability to look inside and out. Mergers and acquisitions, you're familiar with. Strategic alliance is nothing more than an old-fashioned partnership with a twist. So you can see that strategic alliances are rising by an incredible rate, whereas you see mergers and acquisitions may not be as popular right now in the entrepreneur realm. However, with businesses closing and most small businesses, experiencing a tremendous uncertainty as to when they can reopen, how they'll even reach their customers, it's more important now than ever to think differently. So let's think about this. The number of strategic alliances, joint ventures, partnerships that you can create for your organization, your brand, your business will essentially afford you the capacity to have more fishing reels in the water at once. So really think about that. Think about how many sources of revenue you have coming in right now. Now, that's a big area of focus right now. That could be hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Really think about that. So to pivot, strategic alliance can be a partnership to combine efforts, buying in bulk together, seeking business together, each company providing part of the package, to using the brand, the benefit, the distribution channel, anything in between. Alliance, it represents a central strategy for achieving top line growth, higher profitability, higher capacity to enhance business franchise. So it gives you greater ability to pivot in a world trying to turn you into a marginalized commodity. Numerous benefits for everyone involved, obviously. So here's 9 major benefits. You can achieve advantages in scale, scope, speed. You can tie into other businesses. You can tap into tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the small businesses, for the assets, personnel, development, distribution, for nothing more than sweat equity or a minor amount of funding of phone calls, emails, DMs. You can do things instantly because it's already been done, right? This is how you pivot. Somebody spent 20 years to build an organization. You could walk behind it and do it in 20 weeks. You could ride through it. You could leverage up for it. You can increase market penetration by attaching your brand, your business to a lot or to a single other company's production. You can penetrate markets that you never in a million years could have gotten to, could have gotten even your foot inside the door. Now is a tremendous opportunity where a lot of businesses have no idea what they're capable of doing. So they're looking for any window of opportunity. You can also tap into international markets, by utilizing the best relationships out there, the best companies, the best influencers, the best publications, the best associations. You can enhance product development. You can take advantage of all types of other products that can be parallel applied to yours. Or you can let all of the resources of a larger company sort of trickle down and be used for you. You can develop new business opportunities, new products and services. You can take your products to other companies. You can take their products to yours. You can combine together and come up with a whole new hybrid, penetrate new markets. Think about those applications. Expand market development, right? If someone else has a department that has been closed and they are no longer operating on a day-to-day but still have the desire to do so, you can diversify, right? And you can really see the possibilities therein. You can create new business, entirely new businesses that can be spun off with more, or that can generate more, or provide more certainty, more profitability, more cash flow. Think about delivery businesses right now, right? Many people are developing mobile, scooter, bike, logistics companies to help local restaurants, local businesses facilitate their delivery. You can reduce costs dramatically by not having to have your own sales force, by not having to have your own production department, by not having to have your own distribution centers, even by not having to have your own service people, not having to have your own advertising, or pay for the cost of booths at trade shows, things like that. Now, here's some other additional factors that I think you should consider in terms of pivoting your business to sustain itself in today's changing economy. So let's go over a few of these. So number one, you can easily establish, much easier than starting a new business. You can augment your existing selling efforts. Number three, you can increase sales and profitability. You can lower the barrier of entry to different markets, the barrier for your specific niche. You can enhance your image, your stature, your posture. You can expand vastly your client base by pivoting here. You can boost market presence. If you think about that, pivoting, going into new markets expands your reach, can provide added value to new clients, bring other people's services to you, or reversing it and helping provide added value to your partner's clients. You can contribute substantially to client benefits. You may use the term customer, but you can also enter emerging markets. You can expand your horizons, possibility, the 3 Ps, right? Passion, purpose, possibility. Without those 3 Ps, you're never going to achieve greatness. Without the last P, you're only going to be limited. Possibility, very important. You need to expand your horizons. You also need to have speedy access to a wide variety of new markets. You can expand beyond geographic boundaries. You can be all over the world, all over the country, anywhere you can't normally be right now. Think about how you can pivot and grow and expand to those areas, anywhere here, anywhere in Canada, North America, on this continent, South America, all over the globe, really should be the reach that you aspire for. You can gain a foothold in international marketplace right now. You can control other people's markets. You can gain competitive advantage. You can rapidly overpower the competition. You can get involved in joint marketing, so you can share cost and personnel. You can engage in joint selling or distribution. You can get involved with design collaboration, engage in design, packaging, repurposing. It's a more flexible operation too when you're dealing with joint ventures, strategic alliances. They're also less risky. Requires far less cash to move the needle forward. You can benefit from not having required technological licensing. You can enhance research and development capabilities. You can access knowledge and expertise beyond your company's borders. There's all kinds of expertise that you couldn't own or afford, even on a consulting basis or a subcontracting basis in a million years. But now, given this state of our economy, you could probably do it for free. You could strengthen your reputation in industry as a result of association with the business that you're in alliance with. You can also achieve a widened scope of innovation. You can secure your position as a front runner in the marketplace while everybody's down. Now's your time to shine. Now's your time to provide more value for your client to the point that your brand is cemented in their mindset, in their mentality moving forward. You can set up instant distribution networks. Again, logistics, delivery, those are the trending keywords right now. You can capitalize on hidden assets. Everyone's got hidden assets, overlooked opportunities, underperforming activities, undervalued relationships, underutilized distribution channels. It's important to tap into those, to really achieve higher ROIs and ROEs, especially from alliances regarding your core or main business. Now, it's going to be difficult for your competitors to imitate or emulate what you're doing right now. If you're constantly pivoting, you can basically block out the competition. This can help you remain focused on core opportunities. You can have 1 or 2 people project manage these alliance relationships and have the rest of your people spend time on the main business. Now, that one person would essentially be a new profit center. So if you add 4 or 5, 6 more JVs, 6 more joint ventures, 6 more strategic alliances, those are additional revenue streams that you're now adding to compensate for this dip in the market. It's also important to outsource non-core competencies. You can get rid of all the things you don't do well. Now, that is critical. Entrepreneurs always feel that they have to do everything themselves. But you should eliminate what you don't do well. Do what you do great, right? Don't do what you don't do great, right? I've said this before in past podcasts, and maybe you can find some value. You should figure out the 3 most important things your company pays you to do. Figure out the 6 or 7 critical processes you're doing, and value rank your performance in each one of those processes, right? Value rank from imbecilic to great in terms of how you do. And if you're not good to great, don't do it. Get somebody else to do it, because the leverage in going from imbecilic to lousy is nothing. The leverage in going from good to great is geometric, and that's essentially what we want to achieve. The phrase we use is based on simple observation that we see, especially in this country. We wind up spending our entire lifetime working on our weaknesses for various reasons. We have to make our weaknesses better. We're very aware that we have these weaknesses, and in ways It's a very negative world out there. But at the end of a lifetime, by following that train of thought, what you get are a lot of really strong weaknesses. And unfortunately, that's not enough to make you great or to make your organization great in this world. So if you really want to be great, realize you have 2 or 3 areas of distinctive competency, tremendous strength, possible giftedness even, and focus on that, and then figure out a way to delegate systematically or outsource your weaknesses. But don't burden yourself with the weaknesses, because it's a waste. You actually have a moral responsibility to the betterment of your corporation. So this train of thought will undoubtedly save you tremendous time, money, and resources. But again, the key here is pivoting through thinking differently, generating breakthroughs, and facilitating joint ventures or strategic alliances with other brands, other businesses that you can see some value in the collaboration. I want you to think about these points, replay this podcast, share it. Thank you for joining me today on today's Business Boost podcast. Subscribe below, share with a friend. See you on the next one. Take care.